Now recording, and then let me go to a Canvas screen share. 1 second, guys, for that. Should see the screen share on your end, and I'm going to hit student view so that you can see it. What it should look like on your end. I'll start going over the full thing in about 1 more minute. I'll see if anybody else joins. Not sure if we're going to have a small group today or not, but we'll give it 1 more minute. Okay, guys, it's 4 after, and I want to honor your time. We're a little small. It looks like we're missing a few people today, but I want to honor your time. Those of you who are here on time, go ahead and get started so that we can go ahead and finish. We don't have too much to cover today because I feel like I've covered everything pretty well, and we're a little ahead as far as making sure I've covered upcoming major assignments. What I've done, I'm in the student view of Canvas now. I've restructured a few of the assignments because they were showing up a little bit out of order. So when you log into Canvas and go into your home screen here, you should see everything in this order, okay? I still have a few students who joined the class late and need to make up a couple of the early assignments. I'm going to give those students until the end of next week if they were like a late add. The campus has allowed students to add late, even as late as 2 or 3 weeks late, and then catch up. So I'm going to give students to the end of next week if they were a late add or something to make these up. And then once that's done, these will disappear. Your earlier activities will disappear, and that way it won't interfere. Your work that you submitted will still be there, but these extra files that are kind of clogging up the unit, I'll block them out, like the assignment sheet and all of that, so that this file gets a little smaller and more manageable for you. But those of you who've been on the call pretty regularly, you know, these are the ones we did earlier, and now we're moving into starting with the WOIS surveys, which many of you have already even started or even completed so far. You've already maybe done that, but that's what's coming up. Scholarship letter is coming up. Meeting with an instructor, you need to meet with me. We're going to talk about the scholarship letter that you're working on, whatever rough draft you have, and we're also going to start talking about your educational plans to help you with that part of it. Emailing a professor, not due until the end of the month, so you've got some time to think on that one. The schedule planning sheet, which we looked at last time briefly, but that's this. And I'll actually use hydraulics, pneumatics, and automation as an example here shortly. And that's where you start mapping out a plan for your future here at our school, or if you're planning to transfer, you'll map that out as well. And then ultimately, you'll submit that worksheet, but ultimately you're going to meet with a counselor. I'm going to help you as much as possible, but a counselor needs to have the final look over and the final say to ensure that what you've come up with and what you've mapped out for your classes moving forward are going to be a good fit for what your goals are. And also, very importantly, to ensure that you've got a plan in place that will allow you to graduate with a certificate or an associate degree from our institution, as well as be able to transfer to the institution you want to transfer to. Okay, so that's the purpose of that meeting. And in the meantime, you and I will work together individually. I'll work with each student individually a little bit to kind of make sure that all those pieces are in place. I do see a question in the chat box. I'm going to check that right now. You know what? We need to cover the WOIS stuff again. I see that question. That meeting session that we did not record. So I'm going to re-record it. And I think I said, I already told students I'll do that. So I will do that. Thank you for the reminder. I will do that at the end of today's call. And students who are already on have that done can leave if they'd like. And the students who need to kind of go through it again with me can go through it again with me if they'd like. Thank you guys so much for the questions. As you know, there's 2 sections that I teach of this class, and one is in person. And I think I get pretty frequently confused on what I covered with my in-person students versus what I covered with this group. And so I need to do a better job of keeping a checklist and like date and timestamp it. Like if I've got my checklist, check on date and time I spoke about this topic to section, my other section, and then check date and time that I spoke about it to this section. So I'm doing my best there, but I need to do better. Here are our quizzes. I have already checked the chapter 4 quiz, which is week 5 this week. It has 10 questions on it, like it's supposed to. It is open. It is working. This should be a normal quiz week. This should work for you guys. And those of you, if you're tuning in a few minutes late, I just announced at the start of the call, we had an issue, and I appreciate you guys for reporting that to me. I might not have realized it until I got deep into the grade book and saw some oddities in the grade book. I might have not realized it. But thanks for reporting to me. We had a double of the week 4 quiz that was popping up. The week 4 quiz was showing up twice, and one of them was just blank, no questions on it. And the other one had 15 questions on it. And what I had done is I had copied it over from the other class section. I had taken their quiz, copied it into this section, and then removed the additional 5 questions, because that group, one of the things we do in person that's kind of cool is we actually go on some hands-on tours of a few programs on campus, programs that students are interested in. We contact the instructor, we set it up, and we go on a tour. And then I add a few quiz questions from that tour to the quiz. And if you're in the in-person version and you happen to miss the tour, you're expected to do what I've reminded you guys to do a lot. Go to this What to Study tab on the SCC website, type in your area of study, and read about an overview, as well as the classes you're required to take, what types of careers are related to it, etc. So we went to last week, the in-person class, we went and visited this program, and then they had 5 questions attached, of course, about it, right? And so it was just pretty cool. And I'm using this as a demo. You are not required to go in person and check out this program, but remember, I've been reminding you guys to check out the What to Study tabs, because you can get an overview of the program, but you can also see what classes you need to take as part of that program. And these are laid out pretty well. Look at the order they have here. I want to emphasize to students too, something I may not have noticed or mentioned at first. If they're not broken down into quarters, some programs are. I think I showed you guys like cosmetology last time, and they had it broken down like this is the quarter you need to take this on their website, which was pretty cool. If they just have it in list form in this way, notice the 100 level classes are listed first. This is a level of difficulty. So these classes are easier, and oftentimes they are prerequisites to later classes. So prerequisite means you're required to take this first before you can take the next level. So notice like right here, it's a 114 level class. It's labeled as basic hydraulics, right? Hydraulic basics in theory up here, the 100 level stuff, right? So this would be the type of things that you or your counselor would try to put you in early on. The basic level hydraulics, blueprint reading maybe could be moved to another quarter if needed, but these types of things, hydraulics and pneumatic fundamentals, the basics would need to be taken first. Then you would move into, like, they wouldn't let you into a pneumatic theory without taking pneumatic fundamentals, if that makes sense. They wouldn't let you into hydraulic systems if you had not had some basic hydraulics before that, right? Then if you look, here's advanced. Now we're getting into 200 levels. That means it's an advanced level class. Advanced pneumatics. You would not be even allowed to take these in a second or third quarter until you had first had the previous, right? So I hope I explained that well. If you end up choosing a major and you land on something like this, where it's just a big long list, they typically have them listed in order, like the recommended order that you take it. And if for some reason you can't get it that quarter or whatever, you still would just need to be aware that if you see something that says like basic hydraulics, there's probably an advanced hydraulics later on. And you need to make sure I take basic hydraulics in my first or my second quarter sometime early on, so that later when I get to my third and fourth quarter and it's time, I'm able to take advanced hydraulics. I hope I explained that okay, using this one as an example. And again, If you did take that quiz and you were like, what in the world is this? I just gave you a 15 out of 15. I am so sorry for the error there. Let me re-navigate to the Canvas page. Sometimes it lets me move between tabs and sometimes it doesn't. And then I will reshare my screen. Has anyone else joined? We have a couple more students who've joined. That's nice. Thank you. Here we are. So long story short, if you took that quiz, I gave you 15 for 15. You just got some bonus 15 perfect score on that. This week's quiz looks normal. Moving over, so all we have that's actually due right now, notice we've spent the last couple of class sessions talking about upcoming assignments for the month of February. I have restructured these so that they appear on your screen in order. The WOIS is first, so mid-February, this is due. I'll talk about this at the end of the call. Then I want you to be also, in the meantime, working on your scholarship assignment. You'll be setting up a meeting to meet with me to talk about scholarship as well as education plans. You'll also be reaching out to another professor regarding their class, whether that's for a good reason. If we had an example on the last call, you know, if you just really like the class, you're thinking about a career, something like that, or if you're struggling in a class, you need to email and you can look at that assignment when you get to it. And then later, you're going to turn in your schedule planning worksheet to me, and you're going to meet with a counselor about it, but don't wait. The counselor appointments fill up really fast. So you want to go ahead and reach out to that counseling department early to go ahead and get an appointment set up ahead of time. Moving down, last file here, the helpful Zoom videos. I've added one to that. I added our last class session on Tuesday, and that was where we talked a little bit about the educational plan amongst other things. So that is in there, and it's got an external link. The only things that are due this Sunday night are your quiz and the discussions, okay? So I want you to look ahead. Don't wait to the last minute on these things. Don't wait to the last minute. But the only thing we have due Sunday, quiz and discussion. I'm going to click on the discussion now. Then we will go over a quick note of the key terms from your chapter that you need. And then also I'm going to call on you to get credit for participation today by sharing your experience of a time when you had to apply grit. So if you have your chapter book in front of you, I'll get that page number ready and I'll let you know the page number. I'm going to hold up the book or also share the book just in case students need that. I know a couple students are still having trouble getting their books, but it's On Course by Skip Downing. And it's this version. You do not have to have MindTap. If you buy it with MindTap, that's okay from the bookstore. Just don't open the code because you could resell that code. But this is our textbook, just in case students are having a hard time getting that, okay? Back to, let me see if it'll let me go back to Canvas here. Okay, topic. You're going to think about overcoming failures and then persevering in the midst of all challenges. You need to share an experience where you had to apply grit in order to overcome obstacles and or failures, okay, in pursuit of a goal. So I'm in the chapter now. The chapter is about mastering self-management, and you'll see the content starting on page 122 here. And then I'm going to turn to the page that actually talks about application of grit here. Let me get that page pulled up. And that's on page 140. So could I have someone, if you look at page 141 on the sidelines, it tells you a definition of grit. I'm going to mute myself, and I would like for somebody to volunteer to share on page 141, top right-hand corner there. What is grit? It's very simple definition there. Can someone share? Steve-O, do you have that? I always call on you.
Yeah, it says, what is grit? Grit is refusing to give up. It's persistence. It's making your own luck.
Simple enough, right? So Steve-O, I think you may have been the only one who's replied so far.
Yeah, I replied to the discussion.
I'm going to let you lead, and this is for roll call. I'm going to let you lead by sharing your experience, and then in the meantime, I'll start calling on other students to share their experiences. So Steve, can you take it away and share your experience with us for roll call?
Yep. So what I wrote about is how I decided to quit drinking in June of last year. And basically, I just put that, you know, I spent all my 20s drinking regularly. And I just got to the point where, I felt like I was becoming too dependent on it. And so in June of last year, it's coming up on 8 months, I quit and I haven't drank since. And I just wrote that it's incredible. The hardest part about it was that I had to change my life around a lot because I had to change jobs because the job I had revolved heavily around drinking. And I also had to basically quit hanging out with some of my friends because all they do is drink, and I didn't want the temptation in my face. But yeah, it's been almost 8 months, and I put that if I would have never decided to quit drinking, I probably never would have decided to start going to school again. So
Thank you for sharing and for being brave enough to share. There's so much. We've lost loved ones to alcohol abuse.
yeah,
But
it's
yeah.
everywhere. I mean,
Oh
it's
yeah.
everywhere.
It's so common. And I'm an English teacher. I've read a lot of essays. I've talked to a lot of students about their life path. And my own father has been in a real bad alcoholic for about 20 years, and he's still with us. I'm glad he's still here. But we've tried so many times as different family members to talk to him about it and get him to get help, and he refuses. For the person to be that person who's willing to say, wait a minute, I'm going to take responsibility and I'm going to make this change,
Yeah,
that's a brave and deeply personal decision too. And like you say, it unfortunately in some cases revolves, you have to leave certain friends, because you just, or
yeah,
change your environment in order to try to get on a different path. So thanks for being brave enough to share that type of topic, and congrats
yeah,
to you, and keep up the good, keep pushing forward, man.
yeah.
Awesome.
Thank
Everybody
you.
give him some love for sharing that one today. We got all kinds of little reactions we can use
I
on
appreciate it.
yeah. I think I'm the only one. Anybody else?
I appreciate it.
Yeah. It's a hard, and it's so personal. So many people, I can't tell you, and but a lot of people, it's more common than you think.
It
So much
really is.
more. Mhm.
It really is.
Jordan, are you able to share something? Jordan, if you need to, I know sometimes you have to use the chat box. So go ahead, and if you're able to get something in the chat, I'll share it whenever you're ready there. Take, are you able to share something?
Sorry, I haven't think any idea for that.
Okay, I'll come back to you. Robert,
Yeah.
are you able to share something?
Yes, I'm here.
Can you share something, a time when you needed to apply grit in order to overcome a challenge?
I normally have to apply grit to most of my challenges. I would say like my obstacle and the reason why I have to use my grit happens a majority of the time when I'm doing things mechanically.
So for
Um,
example,
I guess my example has to do with the workplace and when I use my grit. I use, that's what you said, grit, right?
yeah, grit. So refusing to give up and being persistent and making your own luck, so to speak, being really persistent at something. Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely explains the workplace. I guess that was the one time in the workplace. I mean, that was the one time, in an event in my life that I have to explain and say that I use the majority of my energy and my persistence in work. One time that I've used that, I guess, is like making sales. If I have to make sales in my job, I have to approach a certain amount of people. It takes a lot of persistence and a lot of time-consuming energy to get my point across to other people and to share my point of view.
All right, everybody give him some love. Thanks for sharing that, Robert, because work environment affects our lives, right? Like if you've got a stressful and intense work environment and you're having to really push and really push and really push every day, it wears on you. And what we're hoping is that everyone's decision to enroll in college, you're seeking a new career path that's going to be a happier, career path for you, and maybe a good fit for your talents and abilities, but also something that just fulfills you and makes you happy, and maybe makes you some good money on the side too, right? We all need that. Let me hear from, thanks for sharing, Robert. Take, have you thought of one yet?
Thank you.
Not yet.
Travis, it's awesome to see you. I want to know if you can think of a situation where you had to apply grit, which is persistence and not giving up, making your own luck, your own destiny, a situation, an obstacle, a challenge you've had to overcome where you had to be really gritty about it.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Oh,
Thanks for joining. Yeah.
yeah. Sorry, I was having trouble getting on here, but I got it, I think. Well, I did have the IT people help me too, because I was having trouble with getting on to using my Bigfoot account. So they had to let me use the guest account, I guess, or something. So, but a time I can think of is actually right now, doing college. It's just, I never thought that I would be in college, because I didn't really like school. I wasn't good at it. But since I became a single dad, I've kind of like made myself do things that I normally wouldn't do, out of the realm of things that I normally do, just because it's like I'm scared of failure, I guess. And my kids is the ones that give me what I need to accomplish the things I need to do.
I hear
Yeah,
you,
good for
man.
you, man.
Yeah. Yeah. We hear you. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
We're hoping that you can find a career path that makes you happy so you can make those kids happy.
Yeah, I mean, I already work on cars anyway, so I figured why not. So
Take, have you thought of anything yet?
No.
And Jordan, did you get something in the chat box? I'll see. Yes, I do see something in the chat box. I'm going to read this aloud from the chat box. Determination, being willing to do what's important, even if it sucks. An example I think of is kind of small, but still an example nonetheless. When I first started college, I had a really, really hard time eating every day. Took a lot of time and energy to prep and do, and I didn't feel like I had the time for it in my day. Eventually, I realized I couldn't avoid it. So I had to purposefully make time out of my day to do so, including budgeting and grocery shopping more frequently. I don't know why it took so much for me to do that task, but it was, again, an example of grit. Well, guess what? These little healthy choices that they have at the ends of every chapter, there is a chapter coming up, Jordan, where they talk about healthy eating habits and how important those are to brain function and helping you to survive in school. So that's a great example. And really, believe it or not, I think it's chapter 6. I would have to look ahead, but there is a chapter coming up where they talk about healthy choices, and making intentional decisions about your eating habits is what they focus on in that chapter. So thank you so much for sharing. And those of you who are parents, we know how that goes. It's corn dogs and tater tots sometimes, right? For those kids. It's super healthy when we're just trying to survive. Okay. I think I've called on everyone. Is there anyone I've missed? These are the only students I see on the call today. Is that a raised hand, Steve-O?
Oh no, it's clap.
Okay, sweet. Open those books and I will go over the key terms now to help everyone. Okay, I'm exited from the screen share. I'm actually going to pull up the quiz. I like to do that just to make sure I don't skip a page, or, I want to make sure I'm being honest and not telling you like, oh yeah, here's what's on there. And then you end up with a couple surprises that weren't, such as the hydraulics and pneumatics questions. So I'm going to actually have the quiz in front of me, but not in screen share, but I'll have the quiz questions in front of me as I go over these. And then after I do so, those of you who need to go can go. And then I'll briefly touch base on the WOIS for those who need it. Okay. That should be a good plan of action here. Just a second while I get to the quiz. And here we go. Okay. So I'm looking through the questions and then I'll make sure I flag page numbers. According to the chapter, this is a true false question. Creators apply a powerful strategy to achieve goals and they do important things first, preferably before they become urgent. So we're looking at pages 122. I'll put that in the chat, which is like an example, but honestly, page 123 and 124, 25, where they have those quadrants. They've got an image of quadrants, but they also have chapter breakdowns of quadrants. Thinking about what is important and urgent first. That's exactly on page 124. Let me make sure I'm typing some things in the chat for those who are having trouble there. Hold on a second. Am I having some trouble here? Hold on, guys. Technical difficulty there. I think I've got it though. So I'm looking at pages 122 through 124, and I just put that in the chat. The power quadrants. You've got 2 or 3 of those questions. You've got 2 or 3 of those questions in there. Question 2 is about quadrant 2. So again, you need to have that image in front of you and a little descriptor about it. Question 3 is looking at, according to a recent study, researchers found that college students formerly studied about 25 hours per week back in the 1960s and 20 hours per week in the 1980s. However, as of 2014, they now only study about blank hours per week. So you'll see on those pages, page 120, it's actually page 125 I'm looking at here. They're talking about some research studies in conjunction to those quadrants. They've got the image of the quadrants and then they've got the research studies. Okay. So that's what we're looking at. So now moving on, I'm trying to kind of navigate a couple tabs here. Wow. Question 4 is about quadrants 3 and 4. So again, you just need those pages. Question 5 says, according to the quote from Peter Diamandis that appears later in the chapter, this word can be defined as refusing to give up, persistence, and making your own luck. We just read that definition earlier in the class, so I'm not going to read it again, but you'll find that definition in the chapter, and it appears on page, so kind of skipped a little section there. It appears on page 141. So we kind of jumped from the page 122 through 25, jumped the next few pages and went straight into that definition on page 141. Question 6, they are talking about planning, and that is important. Planning schedules, and so that you're looking at pages 147-ish. Also in the blue, they've got kind of the little blue section where they're talking about ways to self-manage. That's important. And then lastly, tech tips on page 152 and 53. It's giving you examples of apps that can help you plan your schedule. I perhaps should download one to keep up with what announcements I've made to what classes. But I'm looking at specifically page 152 and 153. So I'm adding this to the chat now. 141 definition. Then I'm looking at blue section on self-management, as well as green section. I'm typing this in the chat for those who maybe can't hear. Green section, page 152 and 153. This should save you some reading time because there are a few chunks that we kind of, you could just browse and not have to read quite as closely as those pages before you take that quiz. And remember, you can totally have your book open as you take the test. And I encourage you to have your book open when you take the test. But what you don't want to do is have not read it. Read through it, and especially the key page numbers that I have flagged for you. Read it first, then open the quiz, mark anything that stands out, then open the quiz and still keep the book open too. So it's the second go around as you're taking the quiz. Okay. Many psychologists on my question 7 suggest that mentally rehearsing purposeful actions will reduce fear and anxiety. That looks like it's going to be a quote or some of the research that they've done taken from one of the pages. I'll double check what page that is. And then question 8, 9, and 10. I'll have to go back on question 7 there and try to flag a page number for you. But questions 8, 9, and 10 have to do with your healthy choices at the end of the chapter. Remember, as I've announced before, at the end of every chapter, there's a healthy choices section. And we always have there's usually at least one, if not two or three quiz questions at the end of each quiz about the healthy choices section. So healthy choices, and it's about smoking. It starts on page 158, and then you can read 158 onward. The last three questions of the quiz will be found there. Let me go back. There was a question 7, I think, and it's just one of those that would be in the paragraphs somewhere, where they're talking about the research. I think I'm just going to double check this. That section, it's on purposeful actions. And that's on page 155. So if you look at page specifically, that's for question 7. I know I'm moving backwards here, but just so you have the key page numbers. Look at page 155 there, purposeful actions. Do I have any questions? That was the quiz, and there were only 10 questions on it. Nothing about hydraulics and pneumatics this time. So any questions? And again, hopefully, especially as stressed out as I know we all are, that will kind of reduce your reading load a little bit. Thanks for joining the call. I gave you credit for being on the roll after you shared your discussion, the discussion topic about grit. If you need a little help with the WOIS, stay on for a few more minutes, okay? If you're done and you're good to go with the WOIS, you're free to log off. Have a great day and a great weekend. Feel free to contact me with questions, guys.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, guys. So I am going to really quickly go through the WOIS and get you started. And I'm going to go to a share screen now. And it's this website. All right, hold on. Share screen, WOIS, WOIS.org. And this index part will pop up automatically. If you just type in WOIS.org, it will take you here. And this is a state of Washington website, and it's a career information system. It links to our college. It helps our counselors help you. You take some personality surveys and some skill surveys of what you're good at, what you're not so good at, what you like to do, what you don't like to do. And it helps us help you when you are determining what classes you're going to take and ultimately what major you're going to take. And Travis, I know you've pretty much already declared automotive. You for sure like automotive. You'll still need to take these personality surveys, and they're kind of cool and helpful. Most students like what they find when they take these surveys, okay? But before you can get in, you will have to put in a site key. I'm already okay, but you will up here somewhere in the corner, if you've never logged in before, somewhere up in this top part, you will get a question that says site key, and it's HWX 650. Keep the HWX lowercase and then 650, okay? And I can put that in the chat for you as well. That's how you get in. Once you're in, you're going to hit on the side, create portfolio. You'll create a portfolio. It will let me do so. It may not let me. I've already. Let's see here. It should, I may already be, when you hit create portfolio, it's going to ask you some questions to type in your name, your group. And when you have a question about group, you're going to put in Appled 102 Wilson. I'll put that in the chat as well. So for the group, you would put Appled 102 Wilson. When you get to that part, it's not taking me to the portfolio, I guess, because I'm not a student. Okay. But basically it's a setup, and then you have a password that you'll create. You'll create a password to log in and out of it. Okay. So it's a one-page thing where you'll fill it out. It's not wanting to take me there for some reason. Once you have it set up, your account set up, you'll go to assessments on the left-hand side. We are going to complete the first 4 assessments in the next 2 weeks. So by mid-February, I want us to have completed the first 4 assessments. The first one is career interest areas. I'm going to click on that just to give you a sample of what they look like. You'll click on it, you'll hit start, and it asks you these just some questions. Would you rather do this or do this? Would you rather write a novel or study the causes of earthquakes? I'm an English major. I love writing novels. That's not everybody though, right? Would you rather plant and harvest crops or fight fires? Honestly, they both sound cool, but I'll choose that one. Would you rather install a car stereo or teach someone how to run something? Would you rather work in an office or sell real estate? Would you rather cut and style hair or help someone just out of prison find a job? You know, like you'll choose, and some of them may not be relevant to you at all, but you'll choose what one of those choices. And there's 66 of these. So it's kind of a long thing. Don't overthink it, but read both of them thoroughly enough. Click on it. Most students finish that in 30 minutes or less. Some students finish it in like 15 or 20 minutes. Okay. That's the career interest areas. The next one is the interest profiler. So that's the first 4. If you look over here on the side, we're under assessments, career interest, interest profiler, skills, and work importance locator. These 4 are the ones we're going to do. Go to the interest profiler. It asks you to choose pictures. They're going to give you some statements and you choose a picture. Okay. So if that makes sense, I think they'll give you a statement and out beside it, you'll pick what picture fits that statement. Would you like to read a book? Maybe you like, or maybe you strongly dislike or whatever. Okay. I'll move to the next one. For the skills, you'll start this. This one's a little harder. I think it's not as user friendly. So they've got a massive list. Don't let that scare you, of all kinds of skills. You're going to pick the ones that you find very satisfying, moderately satisfying, and somewhat satisfying. I tell students to start with the somewhat satisfying first. Fill this one up with like 20 things that are somewhat satisfying. I don't like installing and inspecting and repairing, so those are for sure out. But what are a few things on this list that I kind of like? I like flexibility, especially as a mom of 3 children. I love flexibility, so I'll highlight it here. I might end up moving it to my very section, but for now I'm going to put it in my somewhat section. I like flexibility. You see what I'm saying? If you can, dependability, like always having a job, that's probably maybe going to end up in my very, but you see how you can kind of stack these up? And sometimes students, a strategy for doing it, writing, I know I love to write. Like that's a very, I dig these too. And that's not everybody. So, you know, like I'm sure that those are very satisfying. So you see what I'm saying? You can kind of click them over. Don't overthink it and don't stress out about it. Some students, a good strategy is to read through the list first. Just read through all of them and then have an idea in your mind and then pick your 5 and 10 and then 20. So 5 is like very satisfying. 10 is, you know, moderately. Okay. So if you mess up on one, don't overthink it. But the way to get them to move, students will try to like click and drag and that doesn't work. Okay. The way to get them to move is to click on it and then click over here on the button that you want. Okay. I hope I explained that one. Okay. And if you have trouble with it, we still have a little time. The last one we're going to go to is the work importance locator. And it's a card deck type of game. So this one's a little trickier as well. And so what we're going to do is try to play the card game here, where you have to basically, it's kind of looking blurry here, but you will look at the deck that they have here. Make use of my abilities. If I feel like I want to make use of my abilities and that's important, I'm going to move it, or not so important. You click on it and then it moves. It's kind of funny though. It can be a little bit not user friendly. Okay. So thinking about what's very important, what's not important. Some students end up playing the game twice because the first time you don't know what the next statement's going to be. So if you click through the deck and just kind of read some of them, you can see how I'm skimming and I'm not placing them anywhere. You just read the statements and then finally decide I want that to go to column 3. Okay. Hey there, baby. So, you know, you kind of have to click and then double click to make it move to the column that you want. And those are the 4. I know I kind of flew through that with you guys, and this is recording, so I should be able to post it on Canvas after for people to see it a second time if you need to. We also, we're happy to help you. If you need to come to campus in a computer lab and meet with me or meet with somebody else, if you're having trouble getting it to work, we're happy to meet up with you at some point, log in, sit and help you kind of like get the system to do, you know, to work for you. Okay. Did I explain that okay? Does that make sense what you're going to do when you log into the WOIS? So site key is HWX650650, and then create portfolio. I'll put in this in the chat box. All right, so that's your brief instructions over on the chat box, okay? So that you know what to do. Do you guys have questions?
No, I think I get it.
Awesome, Travis. And let me know too, Travis, if we need to schedule another day for you to come by and us just meet up in person for whatever. Okay.
Okay, yeah, and I just talked to because I have Rachel. She got promoted, so I have a new work first counselor lady. I don't know
Okay.
what the name. I think it's Amber Crumley.
Yeah,
Crumley?
yeah.
Yeah. So I have to talk to her because she's gonna help me get to where I can do in person with you instead of on the computer.
If that's easier, I know it's a struggle, and if it's just easier, I am on campus for so
Oh, okay.
it's a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or whatever. But even if you need to miss one of those days and come the other two, I just feel like I think in person might help you. But either
Yeah, I
way,
think it
whatever
will.
you need to do, we'll work with you. Okay.
Alrighty, thank you. I
Yep.
appreciate it.
Jordan, are you good? It said looks like you're good in the chat box, huh? Let me know, Jordan, if you do want to try to meet early about the scholarship. I know you had mentioned there was one that you already were looking at and wanted to do. I'd be happy to meet with you as early as next week if we want to, and we'll go ahead and move forward with that if you would like to do that. And we can do it over Zoom if you don't want to do it. Either in person or Zoom is fine with me. Okay.
Mom.